Hi. Dorothy Sayers, in the essay Why Work, in her Creed or Chaos and other essays, she has been worrying that, as she puts it, the whirligig of wasteful production and wasteful consumption will start again and will again end in war. She's anticipating that a catastrophe will be the situation if we don't change our ways, our economic ways and attitudes, after World War II inevitably ends. And this, of course, is early in World War II she is saying this. She goes on, and so that the wheels may turn, the consumer, that is, you and I, including the workers who are consumers also, will again be urged to consume and waste. And unless we change our attitude, or rather, unless we keep hold of the new attitude forced upon us by the logic of war, we shall again be bamboozled by our vanity, indolence, and greed into keeping the squirrel cage of wasteful economy turning. We could, you and I, bring the whole fantastic economy of profitable waste down to the ground overnight, without legislation and without revolution, merely by refusing to cooperate with it. I say we could. As a matter of fact, we have, or rather it has been done for us. If we do not want it to rise up again after the war, we can prevent it simply by preserving the wartime habit of valuing work instead of money. The point is, do we want to? Whatever we do, we shall be faced with grave difficulties. That cannot be disguised, but it will make a great difference to the result if we are genuinely aiming at a real change in economic thinking. And by that I mean a radical change from top to bottom, a new system, not a mere adjustment of the old system to favor a different set of people. The habit of thinking about work as something one does to make money is so ingrained in us that we can scarcely imagine what a revolutionary change it would be to think about it instead in terms of the work done. It would mean taking the attitude of mind we reserve for our unpaid work, our hobbies, our leisure interests, the things we make and do for pleasure, and making that the standard of all our judgments about things and people. We should ask of an enterprise not will it pay, but is it good? Of a man, not what does he make, but what is his work worth? Of goods, not can we induce people to buy them, but are they useful things, well made? Of employment, not how much a week, but will it exercise my faculties to the utmost? And shareholders in, let us say, brewing companies would astonish the directorate by arising at shareholders' meetings and demanding to know not merely where the profits go, or what dividends are to be paid, or not merely even whether the workers' wages are sufficient and the conditions of labor satisfactory, but loudly and with a proper sense of personal responsibility, what goes into the beer? You will probably ask at once, how is this altered attitude going to make any difference to the question of employment? Because it sounds as though it would result in not more employment, but less. I am not an economist, and I can only point to a peculiarity of war economy that usually goes without notice in economic textbooks. In war, production for wasteful consumption still goes on, but there is one great difference in the goods produced. None of them is valued for what it will fetch, but only for what it is worth in itself. The gun and the tank, the airplane and the warship have to be the best of their kind. A war consumer does not buy shoddy. He does not buy to sell again. He buys the thing that is good for its purpose, asking nothing of it but that it shall do the job it has to do. Well, once again, war forces the consumer into a right attitude to the work. And whether by strange coincidence, or whether because of some universal law, so soon as nothing is demanded of the thing made but its own integral perfection, its own absolute value, the skill and labor of the worker are fully employed and likewise acquire an absolute value. This is probably not the kind of answer that you'll find in any theory of economics, but the professional economist is not really trained to answer or even to ask himself questions about absolute values. The economist is inside the squirrel cage and turning with it. Any question about absolute values belongs to the sphere, not of economics, but of religion. And it is very possible that we cannot deal with economics at all unless we can see economy from outside the cage, that we cannot begin to settle the relative values without considering absolute values. And if so, this may give a very precise and practical meaning to the words, "Seek first the kingdom of God and righteousness, and all these things shall be added to you." I am persuaded that the reason why the churches are in so much difficulty about giving a lead in the economic sphere is because they are trying to fit a Christian standard of economics to a wholly false and pagan understanding of work. What is the Christian understanding of work? I should like to put before you 2 or 3 propositions arising out of the doctrinal position which I stated at the beginning, namely, that work is the natural exercise and function of man, the creature who is made in the image of his Creator. You will find that any one of them, if given in effect everyday practice, is so revolutionary, as compared with the habits of thinking into which we have fallen, as to make all political revolutions look like conformity. The first, stated quite briefly, is that work is not primarily a thing one does to live, but the thing one lives to do. It is, or it should be, the full expression of the worker's faculties, the thing in which he finds spiritual, mental, and bodily satisfaction, and the medium in which he offers himself to God. Now, the consequences of this are not merely that the work should be performed under decent living and working conditions. That's a point we've begun to grasp, and it is a perfectly sound point. But we have tended to concentrate on it to the exclusion of other considerations far more revolutionary. And Dorothy Sayers goes on next time to discuss in greater detail the consequences of this view of work, the proper end of work, if work is not that which we get paid for, but rather something else. Next time, and we'll put a link in on your screen to Walter Rauschenbusch's great book, extremely influential book, written 100 years ago and more, Christianity and the Social Crisis, where he discusses in, I think, great and wondrous detail the implications of this same text, really, that she cited here a couple of paragraphs back, which is Matthew 6, verse 33. "Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all other things shall be added to you." You might say Rauschenbusch's book is around that theme. Why do we not gain satisfaction from life? Because we don't think in these kingdom priority terms. And attached to that, well, also on your screen, is the playlist, the Rauschenbusch playlist on that very book.